Supermoon Tarot, and in today's video we're going to be looking at how to move past your blockages. I am very excited in which the method that my spirit guide wants me to read these cards. So when you're reading tarot, fun fact, if you read it for yourself or whatever, there is no wrong or right or exact method in which reading tarot. There's such an artistry to it and a versatility. But here's the interesting thing. You can pull 15 cards to get a certain kind of or certain amount of information. But fun fact, you can get just as much information as you can from just pulling 3. And that's what my spirit guide wanted me to do today. We're going to be digging in deep in looking at less cards to get more information. That's how I want to put it. Now, the number 3 is very important for the question we're asking. So it's both a philosophy we're kind of putting into a practical action, which is very spirit realmy. So we're going to be referring to the number 3 based on the Akashic Records meaning or translation behind it. So the number 3 has to deal with the idea of harmony, but the idea of harmony is not specifically talking about tranquility and everybody getting along. It is about the idea of 3 things all coming together in order to fulfill the idea, like a grand scope of a concept or idea, to then be the momentum to work towards the number 4. And the number 4 is like foundation, putting down roots, structure. So it's like, what do we need to do to build up momentum to get you to sort of, I wouldn't say the achievement, but just say the foundation of roots. But what the subtext we're talking about here is this idea that you're looking at the missing puzzle piece. What is the missing thing that's going to give you the harmony you need in order to move forward and build up momentum? That implies you've actually accomplished quite a lot. You've already got the other pieces. We're just looking for the missing puzzle piece. So we're going to be looking for your missing puzzle piece. We're going to be getting some momentum going. We're going to get you past those blockages. I love it. Now, as you can see, we have 4 groups in front of us. Group number 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to give you a moment to pick the group that you resonate with most. Now that you have, you can go down to the description where you can go to your designated group. It's marked timestamp, and we can get started with group number 1. Group number 1, let's find out how can you push past your blockages by looking at the cards. We have Page of Cups upright, 10 of Cups upright, ooh, and Temperance upright. This is so water driven. It's so intuition based, not only because we have our 2 cups here, but the Temperance card to me is very water oriented, which relates to intuition, kind of the unseen world, just being in the flow, following your inner compass, that kind of jazz. But I actually see some really fun stuff that is going to be pretty easy for you to follow, which we love. But give me a quick second to listen to my spirit guide just to make sure I've got everything. Okay. All right. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so let's get started. First, let's talk about how this right here is a philosophy that you should try to catch yourself regularly, to change the way you're perceiving it. It's like thinking of it in a new philosophical way and rebuild viewing it through habitual, you catch yourself, you go, oh, I used to think of it that way. I'm going to practice thinking of it this way. And then over here are the 2 practical applications separate from this that you will go about following. That's going to just right in this moment right now be just so fun and a just complete joy to do. So these are you're going to be very motivated to regularly practice these. So first, the middle card. The 10 of Cups represents this concept of happiness and an achievement in happiness. It's like the happiest you could possibly be. But I'm specifically picking up this vibe of when I receive this, I'll be so happy. When I'm with this person, my dream person, I'll be happy. When we get along in this way, I'm going to be so happy. When I look this way, when I receive this promotion concept, whatever it may be, it's this dream life, dream version of you. And that's fine. The dream and wanting these things is not wrong. It is okay, and we are meant to evolve and add to and create. Don't forget, this is just like a side note, don't forget that what you're working with right now is pretty darn special. Even if maybe you might not quite see it, I'm not saying that that is the perspective you're holding, but if you are struggling with that, please know right now you already got something great you're working with. Just consider these other things you want as beautiful details and shine that are already adding to a wonderful canvas. And that goes for not only the way you look, but a bunch of other wonderful attributes about your life and the way you're going about it. But the thing with the Ten of Cups here is it feels like this dream that you have is being put upon a pedestal. That's how my spirit guide put it. And I felt that too, so that confirmation is good to pick up. And the thing is, spiritually, when we're trying to manifest things we want and will it our way, however we perceive it, that's how it stays. So if you view it as on a pedestal out of reach, well, it stays out of reach. That's why a lot of people in law of attraction, manifestation, think of things as if they already have them. This is where you can kind of think of mantras like, I'm already good enough, I'm already worth it, I already believe enough. Whatever, it doesn't matter where you're at. You have to get into that kind of mindset in order to bring it towards you. So that's the first thing, is the pedestal. But I love how my spirit guide gave this sort of analogy when you're like, well, how do I get out of holding it to such high regard that it feels like it's out of my reach and I'm not worthy enough? And that's sort of like a subcomplex that can often come up when people do this. They said, imagine your dream is riding a particular roller coaster. And before you get there, you're dreaming of, oh, I can't wait to get to the roller coaster. It's going to be so fun and awesome. Then you're on it. And when you're on it, you're not like, this is it. This is the happiest I've ever been. I'll never be happy again. I'll never dream again. You're just in the moment going, this is so fun. I dreamed about it. Now I'm living the dream. How cool is this? And then when you're done riding the roller coaster and you get off, you start dreaming of the next one you want to ride. And you really appropriately ask to receive it, allow yourself to receive it, and then you also allow yourself to let it go. When something isn't a big deal, and of course it's easy to ride a roller coaster, of course it's obtainable, start to use this technique not only to manifest better, but to not feel so in pain in the process. You see what I'm saying? Taking on this perspective of still dreaming and wishing, and then enjoying the process of dreaming, the process of receiving, and then the enjoyment of dreaming the next dream is just going to make the whole experience that much happier. So we're talking about you enjoying the now, receiving it, and then also enjoying the fact that you were meant to keep creating. So this will be really fun for you and help whenever you start to be like, if your mantra starts to be like, well, when I do this, then I'm going to get there. Stop. You're good enough now. You're perfect right now. You're worthy enough now. Just be like, no, I have it. They're coming around the corner. I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Do you see what I'm saying? And this goes for anything, whether it's a physical object, another person, or yourself. Now going on to the practical applications. So when we have a Page of Cups scenario, this is receiving messages from the universe that is given to you. But the messages from the universe are anything from, some people that I see in the comments, I am so happy that I am connecting to some fellow, psychics and intuitive people, and I just love, it's so great being able to discuss this stuff with you. Anyway, when you are receiving messages from the universe, this can be anything from so sorry about that. I thought a siren was going to go by, but it was just a little kid screaming. Anyway, this could be anything from a synchronicity. This could be somebody out of the blue suggesting you to go do something, and then you're like, oh, I'm getting a message from the universe. I'm going to go take advantage of that. But the messages that you're receiving are enabling you to find your way into the flow. And I will be making a whole video about what is the flow, how to get in the flow, practical application. So I will be going into further detail about this in the near future. But this little string is the flow. It's that unspoken sort of feeling and vibe when you can't explain it. You're more confident. Everything's going great. You're not really too far in the future. You have dreams, but you're enjoying what's happening now. You catch my drift. the way you're going to be, the type of messages you want to follow from the universe, and the sort of way you're going to get into the flow is through the inspiration of this little rabbit right here. And this is all about the idea of fun. You're going to continuously ask yourself throughout the day, am I having fun? Am I having a good time? Do I even like what I'm doing? And if you don't, you need to get creative about how can you turn your circumstance fun, make your circumstance fun. Because think about it, some of us are in jobs where it's like, well, I can't quit my job right now. I need the job. Well, how can it be more fun? Can you listen to music? Can you listen to a podcast? Can you make a game of whatever you're doing? In the moment when you're at home and are you just watching TV to watch TV? Do you even like what you're watching? Are you that excited about it? Are you just doing something because other people suggest it and you don't want to be left out? Ask yourself the question, am I having fun? And then get really good at always being able to have it. Following it, you should be laughing, joyful. The universe will send things your way in order to follow this, and this is going to get you into your flow. And when you're in the flow, well, it's very easy to kind of move past blockages, go towards dreams, feel your best. It's sort of the end-all be-all, as I like to describe it. Going forward for our last practical application is the temperance card. It's pretty simple. Initially might be difficult at first depending on what level you're at with meditation, but we are all able to obtain any of these states of being. So over here you'll notice, I'm going to bring this a little closer so this makes sense. See how the rest of her arms around her kind of go in the background and she kind of comes forward? Notice how each thing in her hand is like a different background sound. Something being asked of her, people gossiping in the background, people walking by, a negative statement, whatever it may be. Whatever is kind of the background fodder, again, very similar to you repeatedly asking yourself throughout the day, am I having fun right now? You're going to take a moment, close your eyes, and it's not necessarily about calming down. It's about seeing yourself and realizing every single thing around you, from the expectations that are placed upon you, to the background noise, to even your own inner monologue, letting it kind of become background noise. Not to the point that it falls silent. I mean, if it does that, go you have this technique mastered. It's more about realizing that no matter what happens, you are the most important thing in your entire life. Everything else does not have control or sway over your emotions, and it's really not that big of a deal. Think of this concept as creating everything around you as sort of like wallpaper. And you see it, it's fine, it doesn't make you react too deeply, and it kind of constantly puts you in a perspective where you no longer feel overwhelmed and pulled back into the drama of what's being expected of you or what's trying to call your attention. And it just keeps you level-headed. It makes things easier to go past. You get what I'm saying. The main feeling I get from this card is kind of realizing how maybe things aren't as serious as they seem. That's the best way I would perceive this card. So I hope all of these techniques, you start practicing them regularly. Make sure you practice them throughout the day for them to really become a habitual habit that you on your own start just naturally thinking this way. Have a great time. It just seems very relaxing, in the moment, fun as we expressed before. Just have a great time, and I'm excited for this process to be, honestly, this is probably the easiest advice I'm going to pull out of all the cards. So have a great time. Please let me know in the comments below, how do you like to have fun? How do you make something boring into a game? I would love to personally know. I'm always into suggestions. And if you enjoy this video, please consider giving it a like and a subscribe. Hit that notification bell. It helps out like you would not believe. I am wishing you the best. I will see you in the next one, and let's get ready for group number 2. Group number 2, let's see, how can you move past your current blockages by looking at the cards? We've got Queen of Pentacles in reverse, the Devil card in reverse, and the Tower card in reverse. I can already hear my spirit guide talking. Give me a moment to hear them. Okay. All right, let's get right into this. Okay, let's first start with this card that they were pointing out first. So this is being read with the idea that there is something you need to take, specifically with the snake representing treatment. And remember, when we take something to feel better or feel well, this could be an abstract sense too, like when it's good to go for a walk every day, or you know you need to eat better, or I'm trying to keep this relatively open, and this is a very loving space. There's no judgment here, but something needs to be done in this form, like through treatment, in order to gain the sense of grounding that the color of the snake is. Red represents grounding, or the root chakra. So what's interesting here is that grounding means gaining some form of roots being put down. For some, this term is used as the idea of like feeling more at home in a place. Whenever grounding is associated with spirituality, but keep in mind, spirituality is very much used in a practical sense. So sometimes we might be like, well, I'm not really a spiritual person, but when you feel like your most confident version of yourself, you're asking questions about like, how can I self-improve and blah, blah. This is still within the scope of what spirituality technically is, even if you say you don't practice it. So know when I use the term, it's not being forced upon you. It's just an overall concept we're discussing. So when we gain a sense of grounding in life, this is what then leads us to feel more confident in money, feel more confident in ourselves, feel more confident to be with somebody else. It's this lack of hesitancy because we know who we are, we have identified it, we have gained some form of like clarity around it, and it's cemented enough in us believing in it, we've really grown roots. This kind of counts both in the spiritual realm, when we talk about like your spiritual body and stuff like that. That is an act, it's kind of like a default. You'll get these spiritual roots with sort of the type of grounding when people are like, yeah, I feel like more certain about my life, and so on and so forth. So whatever it is, there's something that needs to be taken in order to gain this. But when this card is in reverse, and what my spirit guide is telling me is there's been some form of resistance of you don't want to take it, you don't want to do it. You probably have a very good reason. I want to be clear about that. That's understandable. And it can be kind of confusing when we're moving forward in life, because sometimes we're listening to our inner compass and it's like, that feels wrong, I don't want to do that. And that's the right choice. And sometimes you're actually resisting something you should move towards. It can get a little complicated, but in this case, this is something you want to move towards. To give a bit of an example, I'm not trying to run on. We're going to go on to these other cards very quickly. But when I personally feel something, it makes me uncomfortable and I'm like, I don't know, I'm kind of nervous about it, I actually often go towards it, and I find it was the exact answer I needed. It's kind of similar when you're feeling nervous about going out and hanging out with maybe another group of people and that's not really your kind of like thing, and then you go out there and you end up having a deep discussion with somebody, or you have fun, or you meet the love of your life or something like that. That would be a similar scenario and concept of the feeling that is like a guttural instinct, like a survival instinct of being like, I don't want to do this. You're going to need to go towards it. It's sort of a weird version of an inner compass, because sometimes this feeling indicates you need to go towards it. Anyway, the Queen of Pentacles in reverse. It appears, and this is what my spirit guide says, there is a lack of organization going on in your life that you need to get going with that. This could be anything from maybe your house is a mess and you need to clean out those closets, clean out that car, buy some of those kind of clear bins, label some stuff, understand where things are. Or it could be the organization of going through your life and be like, when you go out to go to work or go other places, do you feel like you're rushing and you don't know where your items are to get there? Do you feel like you're disorganized running from your work life to your personal life? Does it feel like things are off? What can you do to gain a sense of grounding? This is not, I have been told, I did double ask, is this the sort of treatment you need? This says it's in addition to the treatment you need. But this also acts as a form of treatment and giving you grounding and giving you a better sense of what you're doing in life. You feel like you're a lot more confident. It kind of has a sort of like the byproduct of feeling this way leads to all this other good stuff is what I'm trying to basically explain. But sometimes when we're organizing, it forces us to ask ourselves, this is very Maria Kondo, very like, does it bring us joy kind of idea. And you start to realize that when you clean out the clutter, whether that be in your personal life as you get organized in abstract ways like we talked about with activities and errands and work, or if it is a physical sense like your home and car and examples like that, you are only left with things that make you happy, the relaxation that you no longer have this physical clutter weighing down on your life. And this metaphor, this physical metaphor, takes on sort of spiritual and emotional solace, which is really beautiful. But it seems like it just keeps being repeated over and over again, this sense of roots that need to be put down. Now, the Tower card in reverse over here is pretty interesting how my spirit guide put it. I think this is I don't think I've heard of it put this way. So blanketly, the Tower card in reverse refers to the idea of a long-standing issue coming to an end. And I had this confirmed, but I already knew this looking at the cards myself, but my spirit guide confirmed it. This refers back to this idea that you've been resisting. Something you've been resisting, you need to do, whatever it is going to be a huge turning point in your progress, which is really beautiful. And this is the confirmation that you will do it. Yes, it will be a dramatic shift in your life. When we have a Tower card, whether it's upright or reverse, it's referring to this idea as your daily schedule being changed. But especially with the Tower card being in reverse, this is the good kind of change. You're going to be better off from it. Often this change will initially shake us up, be difficult. That can be some of the reason why you've been resisting it. But you will be so much happier and better off, and you wouldn't have gotten to this new version of you, new life, moving past these blockages, the version of you past these blockages, if you hadn't done something so sort of intense, so to speak. But here's where it gets really interesting what my spirit guide was saying. They said, you are acting too much like you are in survival mode. They said, pretend that this card can affect you, the elements that are happening here with the thorns down below the card and the lightning down here, on two different planes of perspective. On one perspective, there is the survival mentality and viewing things as, can they get you? Can you, be like harmed in some way? How can you, what's happening and how can you basically protect yourself, essentially? And this is very normal instinct. This is usually our first instinct that pops up. And this is why it's usually sometimes like our downfall, so to speak. In this case, yours is too overactive, and we want to take on the other perspective, which is, if we're viewing this in a spiritual way, we would be viewing, what is the metaphor of this thing that's happening to me? What can I gain from it? What can I learn from it? And when they said, when you are on this sort of spiritual mentality towards these things, then you no longer take on the survival mentality repercussions, which is you would be physically gotten by these things, and instead you would absorb the positive spiritual attributes. So what I mean by this statement is, over here is the thorny pattern. So normally if it's in reverse, you'd be falling. So when it's in reverse, there's a positivity of, oh, look, you're no longer falling towards these thorny, uncomfortable leaves where you could, it wouldn't be great if you fell there. But if you're in survivor mentality, you're happy you're no longer falling that way, but you'd be falling towards this lightning. And well, that could really sting too. That's not fun. And it feels like you're turning your protective nature of yourself from one danger to another. And so therefore, it just feels like you're surrounded by that. You're unable to move forward in life if you view both the current situation or the possible repercussions of it and the potential positive future as both not great paths where, like we talked about, harm could be done in some way. But if we took the spiritual mentality and they're asking you to change that, get out of that survival mode and take on, what am I learning here? What can I see here? Now we see you moving towards electricity, empowers things. It leads to inspiration. It has nothing but benefit. It comes with storms, and storms create rain that give nutrients to the earth. There is so much growth and possibility and creativity, and I mean, it's still a lot. It's still intense. It has positive results from it, but it's also still intense, as we discussed with the Tower card being in reverse. But even spiritually, it's like, this is the hard lesson you don't want to be learning anymore. You're tired of it. Again, the Tower card referring to a long-standing issue finally being resolved. And so you're happy spiritually, you're moving away towards that, and you're moving towards something that leads to progress, and on a really big level, as we expressed before. So, essentially, you need to take whatever that treatment is in order to gain a sense of grounding. Another way you'll be gaining a sense of grounding, but on a practical way, you need to be doing some form of organization, figure out where it's in disarray and clean it up. It's going to help you and have a lot of other positive effects from that happening. And last but not least, as you think of this new shift and change happening from what we talked about here, and as you move forward, the blockages are not, there's blockages, and then you're not moving towards the future. You're in the future, and even in the future, you're not enjoying the future because of these blockages. And the blockages are the perspective of, are you reacting in survival mode? Are you seeing everything as danger? Everybody's the enemy. How can I get from one moment to the next? Or are you thinking of how you can grow? How can you dream? How can you build upon that dream? How can you inspire others? So on and so forth. You get what I'm saying here? And then you will reap the benefits from that. So super interesting. Loved all of that. Yay, thank you, Spirit Guide. And I hope you enjoyed it too. Please let me know in the comments below. How are you going to be getting organized? What's the part in your life you need to be organized? How are you going to practice this perspective at times when you feel like your survival mode starts to kick in and it's just too tempting to give into that? How are you going to pull yourself out of that and instead take on the more inspiring method as we discussed? Anyways, please consider giving this video also a like and a subscribe. Hit that notification bell. It helps out like you would not believe. I'm wishing you the best. I will see you on the next one. And let's get ready for group number 3. Group number 3. Let's find out, how can you move past your blockages by looking at the cards. We have 8 of Swords upright, Page of Pentacles upright, Knight of Pentacles upright, and I don't know why I'm saying it in a tone like there's gonna be more. Can you hear my spirit guide talking? Give me a second to look at this. This is very interesting. I really love what they're saying over here about this. Okay. Okay. So these are the 2 main things we're going to be focusing on: practical applications and being self-aware. But this is sort of just giving you a concept on a time as well as the benefit to that, so you don't feel like you're sort of, you're like, am I doing this wrong? Nope, you're doing it right. And you're going to receive even more benefits from it working out this way. So let's start here. The Page of Pentacles. I'm being told by my spirit guide, there is something that you need to do now that will be small, kind of like a day-by-day thing you work on, that will in the long term add up to something bigger. But for the moment, it's just a small thing. You think that you're really in the present moment as you're working on it. A good example of this would be like not worrying about the long-term goal very heavily of like, maybe you want to get in shape, but you're like, you know what? Every day I'm going to go for a walk for 20 minutes. And you're not thinking about deeper. You're just like every day you think about your schedule and you're like, well, I just got to make time for my 20-minute walk. And you enjoy it. You have a good time. It's very small. It's not a big weight on your shoulders. You have fun. But 6 weeks down the road, you're like, wow, I feel so much better. There's all these benefits from it. It's affecting me emotionally in a positive way, all this good stuff. Now, I'm not saying that's what you need to work on, but it could be anything from a project or whatever. This is because you are meant to watch and understand the lesson of seeing the benefit of something being built when it is built in smaller segments understanding that little bit by little bit adds up to more than you think, and seeing the benefit of both being present and not obsessing about where it goes, like kind of like putting that on the sideline. Like, you're working towards that, but you're put on the sideline. You're not talking about it anymore. It's not the big deal. It's just your 20-minute thing each day, as we discussed before. But realizing how being present and small amounts of work really add up to something, because you need to stop thinking about that long-term goal, that thing. You need to pull away from that, stop it, get away from that, and just think about what are you doing each day by day, having fun in the moment. And again, I don't mean to be repetitive, but when we are present, we're enjoying our life. We're not putting our life on hold for a future that will technically never come, because the future will always be in the future. You get what I'm saying here? So it's going to be fun. It's going to be teaching you a life lesson. It's going to be great. And you get something out of it at the end of it. So definitely don't promise things to yourself or give yourself things to do. Break it down, let it be small, and let it be really small, like 10, 20 minutes. Oh my goodness. I don't know if you can hear that loud car in the background, but no worries. Now over here with the Knight of Pentacles, I am, it does basically say, and my spirit guide confirms this, that it's going to take a while, this concept that we're talking about, and in general moving past your blockages. However, this is because you will relinquish the need for it to be solved overnight. And in the process, be forced to be like, well, if I have no other choice other than to, so sorry about that. Anyways, going on to what I was saying, if it's going to take a little while, I'm forced to, just kind of relax, enjoy what I'm doing, and enjoy the process. And what this does is it teaches you that you're having more fun and receive more fulfillment during this journey, like the journey itself is more fun than when you actually receive the thing that you were working towards or get to the ultimate dream you want. It's lovely, but honestly, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, I did want that so much. I mean, that's cool. I mean, I'm having a great time day to day, whatever. It's very much that same scenario going on here. So this is to let you know that if you're not seeing results right away, it's in order for you to kind of get in this perspective, enjoy the journey, and that you're in fact doing nothing wrong, and this is a part of it. You're gonna have a great time, and to teach you something, but also just the reminder of like, hey, you're doing the right thing. You are moving past the blockages. Now, last but not least, the Eight of Swords. This might be, I don't know how to say this gently. It appears, so sorry about that again. Anyways, going on. So I'm not quite sure how to go into this. I want to do this as gently as possible. But from what my spirit guide says, it appears there has been some motivation from you from a period, most likely a time period where you felt like you were being attacked. So you had to develop certain maybe characteristics or reactions to things in order to get people to go away. That's the best way I can put it. It's like maybe you're criticized over and over again and you just can't take it anymore. So you start to become kind of volatile back, or you react really intensely. I mean, that's just one case and scenario. It could be anything. But it was understandable you did that. I really want to make that clear. That's completely understandable. Nobody's criticizing that. However, the same thing you did in order to protect yourself, you're sort of caught in your own web, and it's kind of tearing you apart right now, and it's not very fun to be in. So the main thing I want you to understand from this is not that you should put yourself down about this or even reason too much that it's okay. It's not about it being right or wrong. We're not talking about the past. We understand how it happened. We can have sympathy for that, compassion for that version of yourself, but you're going to breathe in the moment when you notice these habits happen that were once protective in nature. You're going to catch yourself and you're going to take a moment to see, can I respond differently? Not for the benefit of other people, but when I express myself this way, I'm really just hurting myself now. It's now time for me to do stuff that inspires me. When I'm open, it's not about people like learning about me for the sake of the interaction for them, but when I'm able to express myself, I truly feel free. or whatever the case may be. So remember, it's for you. It's not for others. It's okay that that's how it happened, or the reason why it developed the way it was. It was what it is. But now it's time to be self-aware in order for it not to bring you down anymore. So I'm very excited for you. I know this card might be a little difficult to face at first. Please be nice to yourself. Please do not criticize yourself. That was one of the ways you were brought down. You don't need to add to that anymore. That would be a perfect example of something you catch yourself doing and you pull back and you think, you know what? Maybe I'm a lot better than I'm giving myself credit for. But find something a little bit at a time that adds up to something bigger. Understand that it will take a little bit of while, but it's all about forcing yourself to enjoy the journey. And then by the time you receive the thing that you receive, which I'm hearing about from my spirit guide, which is awesome to hear. We haven't talked about that enough. You're going to apparently receive this thing that you're working towards. Well, you're going to both enjoy that and enjoy the process in between. So you're going to be already happy before then. So we love that. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this reading. Consider giving it a like and a subscribe. Hit that notification bell. It helps out like you would not believe. I will see you in the next one, and let's get ready for group number 4. Group number 4, let's find out how can we move past your blockages by looking at the cards. We have 10 of Wands upright, 9 of Wands upright, and the High Priestess in reverse. Give me one moment to look at this and listen to my spirit guide. Oh. Okay. How am I going to do this one? Okay. So I'm going to have to say this all in the gentlest, nicest way, because sometimes when we hear certain information, there's a kind of reaction and potentially resistance. And I'm going to ask you to keep a somewhat of an open mind. Nobody's criticizing you here. This is a safe space to, express yourself and be yourself. But we also can understand the subtext of why certain things happened and then how to overcome them. So, first is the 9 of Wands. The 9 of Wands holds a lot of weight. That is literally being exhibited here in the 10 of Wands. What is happening here is causing a lot of tension to be brought upon you. It's really weighing on your conscience. It's really weighing on who you are as a person. It just feels like you're unable to carry on very much further when it just feels like you're carrying so much, is the best way I can put. Anyways, moving forward, 9 of Wands upright. These are the two main cards we want to talk about. The 9 of Wands says, and this is what my spirit guide says, is there were some things that you had to do along the way in order to get close to the situation you're at now. We're going to think of this situation as like a dream, the version of yourself you want to be, whatever that may be. It's something big in your life you've been working towards. And you've had to compromise parts of yourself or ways you would normally react to things, so on and so forth, in order to get there, which makes the clarity of the High Priestess in reverse make a lot more sense, but we'll get there in a moment. Now, this can be a very wide range of things. This could be maybe you were more trustworthy as a person, and I'm not saying this is you, I'm just giving examples here. Maybe you realized you couldn't really trust anyone, and you had to, for your best interest, if you heard there was an opportunity, you had to take advantage of that. It wasn't about playing fair, it was about doing what you had to do in order to get there. Or maybe you normally do a really thorough job when you're working at your thing, or you're really thorough with your kindness with other people, but you kind of have to curb it, put it on the side, do it later, you never get around to it, or kind of are very flimsy with how the detail of the product or the thing you're working on gets done, because you're like, I don't have time, I gotta get this done. Again, there were reasons why you made these decisions. These weren't made lightly. But the things that got you to where you are now currently acting as form of like a wall. Think of these various heads as the things that are now currently haunting you subconsciously and preventing you from getting to that final stage. You're almost there, which is very exciting to talk about, but that version of yourself, that on the other side, think of the house as the dream, the perfect you, whatever, that the thing you're working towards. Well, you're not that version of yourself right now. And you have to face the things that you've sort of had to do in order to get to the next step. But here's the important thing. This is not about criticizing yourself. This is not about being mean to yourself or being overly neutral, is how my spirit guide says. Imagine her picking up each one of these and lifting them off and moving them out of the way so she's no longer in potential danger. This is about her looking at each one representing something about herself that she never thought she'd be, that version of herself, and just saying, addressing it, being like, I have started to cut corners. You remove it. You just be objective. You just face it. That's it. You don't have to think too rashly about it, but don't be so neutral you're not realizing, hey, I've started doing something that's not the version of me I'm happy with, and so on and so forth. I've started to put myself down more than I did a couple years ago. Whatever it is, you're going to face it, move it out of the way, and that is a huge weight then being lifted off your shoulders that will no longer bring you down, and then will open you up for the next thing. But the other thing that I would definitely say would be one of these things on top of the wands over here would be the High Priestess in reverse, but it's important enough that it gets its own card, so to speak. So the High Priestess in reverse is when we do not see situations clearly. Think of this as more reactionary, which makes sense in the things you've had to do in order to get to where you're at, because often we are not given a chance to process information. Well, it appears you're now at that point, but you've built up a certain habit both for yourself, for others, how you view things, and you're basically being asked by both the card but my spirit guide as well, is there a way when something happens and somebody introduces themselves, a situation is being put in front of you, can you take a moment, pause, don't even, let maybe your first instincts go, like express them in your head, and then stop, give it a moment, and start looking at it. Is it really that bad? Could it be a lot easier and more fun than you're realizing? Is that person potentially nicer than it is? Now, I'm not saying being so trusting and open and loving that you let in not kind people in your life and stuff like that. If you still at the end of the several pauses are like, nope, they don't seem like a great person, I don't want to know them, then follow that instinct. That was the right instinct. But right now, sometimes when we have instincts, it's instant. But sometimes due to a series of events, and we know those events and how much they've weighed upon you, our instincts get messed up. And because we're not unaware of this, we come from instinctual to reactionary. So this is about pulling you out of that, getting you back in touch with being able to see the situation clearly. This is important because we're not just talking about intuition so you can follow the right path and know the next thing to do. We're talking about, are things better than you realize and you're actually like in the dream itself and you're not acknowledging it? Do you see what I'm saying? Is there a potential that somebody you want to be with, again, an example of something you maybe potentially want, is right there in front of you, you're just not giving them a chance and you're unaware that you're even doing that. It's about pulling back, being a little more open, really looking at all the details, making a list, and then making an assessment when you're a little more clear-headed. You will then gain back your instincts, and it will be much nicer flow and environment for you to be in, which is really beautiful. So thank you so much for keeping an open mind when considering these things. It's okay, you had to do what you had to do in order to get to this part, but now that you have, you can face it, let it go, and allow yourself to be the version of yourself you didn't feel was the right time and place to be. They both benefited yourself, and you're now aware that sometimes the road to our goals or the version of ourselves, whatever that may be, isn't always linear. And we're not just talking about zigzaggy from feeling like you're progressing to not progressing, but sometimes it involves, people often view things as good and bad, but in reality, there's a lot of gray that is meant to be in order to help benefit you better understanding the good, you're able to see where you'd like to be. But also, if you didn't experience the gray, you wouldn't have built up the certain techniques, been able to identify this in other people, build up certain skills that you would only been able to be, like maybe the part of you that was maybe a little more short with people was more objective and able to make decisions very quickly. That version of yourself, those techniques can be brought into the version of yourself you really want to harness. So there was benefits from all these different things you put out there in the world. So I'm wishing you the best. Please consider giving this video a like, a subscribe, hit the notification bell. I will see you in the next one. And yeah, goodbye.